You can do a lot of creative, fun stuff and try it out there and find an audience. I mean, there's just amazing stuff that I love that can find an audience.
All right, Reed, thank you so much for joining the Creative Haven podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And it's cool because we've known each other, I don't know, it's been like a year or two now.
Yeah, short time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we met through LinkedIn and, we've stayed in touch and, are friends and we've done a lot of really, just great conversations and cool projects that here and there and really thought about some really cool ways that we could help people with content and marketing. And at the end of the day, we just have some really cool lunches at the Federal in North Hollywood, which I always enjoy. But I would love for you to actually tell the audience more about your history and writing and marketing and where you're at now.
Sure. So I currently do operations and marketing consulting, but my career started in entertainment. My first job out of college was with a company that did corporate films in 16 millimeter. So I go
Wow.
back a little bit of ways, and they were corporate image films, and they were shot and edited, and so I learned the production process kind of first in the film space.
Yep.
And I worked in television for a long, long time, both as an executive and a creative executive and a writer and story editor, and did that for a long time, and then made a pivot around the early 2000s into the internet space and the marketing, digital marketing space. So that kind of covers the two different paths and two different times, although they're quite a bit the same.
It's interesting you say that because you're talking about old corporate videos, the videos that were filmed on actual film where you had to develop, had splicing tape, and it's an interesting process that not that many new video creators or content creators have experienced. And so I can only imagine the amount of time you had to take to for pre-production to make sure you don't waste film because these days with digital you can fill up a 128 gigabyte card and still think that you don't have enough shots.
Totally. Yeah.
um,
It kind of taught me the process all the way through.
mhm,
From, how do you sell a project like that? How do you get the
mhm.
clients? How do you get them to buy in? How do you get the concept behind it? How do you hire the writers and get it written and work with the client to get it to where they want to be? And then, like you're talking about, all the pre-production involved in that, and then actually getting out and producing it and post-production. It gave me end-to-end kind of view of how things get done.
How have you seen the change or the transition from analog to digital when it comes to the acceptance of corporate videos or videos for branding and marketing? Do you see much more of a uh, interest and value in corporate films and corporate
Yeah,
videos?
yeah, completely. I think it's it is what's driving the marketplace right now is video.
Hmm.
But as with everything, there's just a lot of clutter.
Mm.
Making it easier to do doesn't make it better or more effective. So, underlying it, you can, there's a lot of good stuff being done and a lot of it, and there's a lot of bad stuff being done and a lot of it. So, um, but yeah, I think on the client side, people understand they need to do content, they need to do video, and work with their clients.
So, what is kind of the typical process for you now, and even some back then, when you come up with an idea for a company and a corporation for their video?
Yeah, so a lot of deep research and kind of understanding, what their unique value in the marketplace is, who they are, what they're trying to do, what their products are, how they see themselves going. So really trying to understand what they're trying to do, and see if you can come up with ideas that are in sync with that and are fun and make sense and ultimately succeed with the audience. So A lot of it is just, trying to get a feel and understanding of what the client needs.
Got you. And how does that helped you or influenced you with your writing? And do you feel that because you produced, you were able to write in a way that's cost effective? And has your writing skills and passion also helped you produce?
So I think all of that. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I started very early with having to solve those creative problems within the economic box. Whether it was corporate films or, being a TV development executive, or, producing in the television, or that it was not just, writing for yourself or for a small audience, or, you really needed, there was financial constraints, there were time constraints, there were, a lot of parties involved that needed it to work. But you also had to bring something creative to the table that made it exciting and fun and resonated with an audience. And you spent a lot of time thrashing around to find something that that fits and feels good and works. And within that problem solving box. So I think it helped
Hmm.
me. It helped me stay employed
Yeah.
because I understood, from that perspective what was needed. And it also, enabled me to have a lot of fun with the creative folks and do it myself. So yeah, I think there's the creativity, and then there's the structure and the craft, and then there's understanding how to execute it, and then there's the financial side of it. So
Yeah.
um, at this point in my career, having all those skills is I think helpful.
That's
Um,
right. I mean, there's that funny paradox in TV and entertainment where they want something new and innovative, but it has to be safe because they want to make sure they don't lose money. And I always remember having to pitch for my clients in for features or TV. You had to do something that was innovative and new. We had to stick with a 3 act structure, and you had to make sure you had the at 10 pages, that's when the second act starts, and you have to make sure that there's a flow that's very similar to a popular movie. And so for you, when you were a TV executive, what was your parameters when it came to projects? Like when you saw projects and you said, okay, that's going to be a successful project, or you heard a pitch, what were the I think the fundamentals or the pillars of a successful idea or project?
yeah. So I guess I'll talk, the business side first. Again, it was the research and really understanding, what the marketplace was, who were the buyers, what
Hmm.
what did they already have, and what were they looking for, but what did the audience want, and what really sparked and was exciting. You looked at who was doing it, certainly what their creative track record was, but a good idea and something fun, and something that makes sense always, you would get behind things that may have not fit into that box, and champion stuff that um, you just liked. So I but I think as an executive, you had that checklist. You knew you were going to have to answer a particular set of questions, or and both. You had to turn on the buyer. I mean, they had to get excited about it, and you had to communicate to them, with the project and with the people involved in the project. Why is this worth doing? What's it gonna do just from an entertainment viewpoint?
Hmm.
And then fill in the rest of it on an economic viewpoint and a success viewpoint. So I think it's changed quite a bit. I mean, now with the lower cost of entry, you can do a lot of creative, fun stuff and try it out there and find an audience. I mean, there's just amazing stuff that I love that can find an audience. That when I started in the television world, you the cost and the limited distribution,
Mm,
you just couldn't reach the audience. Now you can get right at them, and you can test a lot more. Same with clients. You know,
that's right.
you clients may be afraid of making mistakes, but you can try something in a small pond, and not not blow it up with everybody. You can get a sense of that a lot better than today, which I think it's for creative folks, it's just a lot of fun. I know you and I are talking about doing some crazy fun stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we wouldn't have been able to do 10 years ago.
It's so true. I started off in the entertainment industry too, and also in animation. So I understand having to deal with animation studios, showrunners, writers, a staff of writers, producers, executive producers. And it was such a huge list of people you had to get through for notes as well as approvals. And so you really had to figure out what is that one through line that everyone's going to agree on, and then how can you throw in some innovative, funny, new ideas so it becomes the new SpongeBob or Adventure Time or Rick and Morty. So I think it's really cool that you started in animation and also in writing and also as a TV executive, because I think dealing with those type of budgets and crews and that scope really helps you see how you can handle other projects independently as a business that helps other businesses with digital content. So how has your skills transitioned to the digital world in from television? Like, what were the things that you learned in television that helped you in the digital world?
So, one of the things definitely was how to keep a content clock and to keep things going.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of it is just ass in the seat, getting stuff done, putting it out on a timeline, on a schedule, and also, making it thematic, finding a clear bell to ring, and then finding ways to create formats and templates and things that you could do that were repeatable in content, not the same thing all the time, but gave you a way that you could produce ongoing content and at a high volume. I mean,
Right.
you need to feed the monster. In TV, you had to feed the monster. And I worked on some syndicated shows where we had 52 half hours of production, working with tons of writers, and you had budgets and crews waiting, and it had to be done, and you had to get all the notes together and get it done and put it out, and you had to be disciplined about that creativity. I think that's true some ways in the content side. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
doing one great thing is not enough. You have to keep producing content, especially for a brand or a client or for your audience, because people chew through the content pretty quick if they like it.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I think that was some of that translatable skill was how do you build that in to give yourself, how do you recognize what a good idea is,
Mm-hmm.
how do you create that structure, and how do you produce it in a consistent fashion at a high level, and at a continual clock to
That's
get it
right.
done. Yeah,
Feeding the monster. I'll always remember that line. And
yeah.
Creativity Inc. and DreamWorks, and it's just one of those terms that I always hear, because when you are in the studio space and TV and features and have budgets and just staff in the hundreds, you're able to just pump that machine with ideas and production. And you really are pumping out movies and TV shows at a consistent basis. And you really need to have systems. And I think the systems is what a lot of creative people have to deal with, and it's complicated to scale because like myself as a content creator, I'm from the entertainment industry, though when I started creating content, it was more from YouTube. And so as a filmmaker, I understood, of course, the teams of, the producer, the grips and the gaps, the camera department, the art department, the writing, the writers, everything. That's a huge team. In YouTube, I learned how to do it all by myself. I learned how to shoot, edit, write, produce, everything, market, publish. It was a very interesting moment in my life because I had to forget my film school training and my entertainment connections and just go full force as a lone wolf. And it was great for training, but it was hard for me to uh, figure out what I needed from that point to really feed the monster just by myself. Because
Mhm.
trying to be a YouTuber, I don't know if people out there are YouTubers, but I was creating content every single day, and I had a team. I had a team at our highest point. We had 10 people across the world, and it was feeding the YouTube monster. And the YouTube monster is very, it's like direct marketing because and direct response because you get your views and your likes and dislikes and your comments right there. So every single video you put out, you know exactly what your reaction is. And so it was a great way for us to know what works and what didn't work. Though after a while, you get creator burnout. And so what a lot of creators on YouTube are finding out is that trying to feed the YouTube monster or the content monster for TikTok and Instagram, it's hard to do by yourself sometimes. And so you creating those systems now is something that I think a lot of creators and companies are trying to figure out. And it's really important. And for you, when you are creating a film, TV show, even like a digital project, whether it is video content or just content in general, what are kind of the things that you delegate or want to delegate? And what are the things that you actually hold on to as part of your expertise?
Yeah, so I'll step back on one of your comments. I'm a huge believer in collaboration these days.
Hmm.
Um, I've done a lot, sitting alone, sweating the lead, working alone for hours and hours, and solving all those problems. And um, it knowing that you can do that is a good thing. I don't find it as fun as collaborating on creative stuff and getting ideas from other people. And I mean, I really, um, I think I'm better with good people creatively than I am alone. So I start there. From what I think I do is I have two hats. One is, and bouncing in and out of it doesn't always work. I mean,
Hmm.
you have to be creative when you're being creative, but then bouncing into how do we execute this and how do we get this done, and some of that marketing stuff of your own material. I like to have I step in and do a fair amount of that, but from where I am now, a lot of what I do is, strategic and creative and less operational than it was.
Mm.
So finding people that are, good and you have a shorthand communication with, and, it's, I worked with my father as a writer for many years, and we used to just say, you know, second base and shortstop. I mean, I hate to go to a sports metaphor, but it was, having people like that you have, where they're going to be and what they're thinking and what they're going to do, and they can step in for you on something, or they get you and they get what you're trying to do, and then finding people that are just skilled at what they do. So, your skills are amazing. I'm not a, I am not a hands-on editor. I'm not a, there's things that I don't shoot. Um, and in animation, I wasn't an artist. I can't draw a lick. Um, so, relying on people and finding those people that, you're in sync with and have, and enjoy. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're going to spend 14 hours a day, or you're going to go through an editing bay in the middle of the night, or, sit behind a computer watching someone edit, or, go over stuff, you want to climb a hill with someone that's, fun, that
It's so
you
true.
enjoy. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, no, no, it's true. I think that for you, the whole idea of collaboration on a creative level is all about finding people who are talented, but also people that you enjoy working with and also can work together well with you as a team. And the operations side of it, that's it'll be there. I think that once the team is together and you're able to create that content at a innovative, creative, and functional level, then it's putting in those systems and the operations that have worked before, and then just throw in the different, team members and roles in there to make the system work. And it's great what you said about having to work with people that you like and enjoy with and are willing to take some notes from. And I always remember when I was trying to, of course, staff people, staffing people on shows when I was a manager, a lot of showrunners, they pick up their friends, they hire their friends. And a lot of the time I told my clients back then is that you really need to network a lot. You really need to make friends with a lot of potential show writers. You need to be in the writing room. You need to be the type of person that somebody would want to work with. Yes, talent does count. At the same time, if you're a talented asshole, these days people are not going to want to work with you because there are a lot of talented people out there. And it's because of the barrier of entry is so low now, because people have access to scripts from the past. People have Final Draft or Celtics to write. It's no longer this closed off industry that no one can really get into. I mean, especially for video creation, you can shoot things with your iPhone 12 now that was better than most cameras 15 years ago. And so I think it's great what you said about finding people that you like to work with who are also talented. And with that being said, what have you found is kind of the best way to coordinate and manage creative people? Because I know that I'm a creative type, we can be difficult at times. And there are some times where we do need a producer or a manager or someone that can handle the administrative scheduling, coordination, whatever it is, in order for us to be free and creative. So what have you found are the best ways to manage a creative team?
Yeah. So, I think initially is listening to people and understanding what, where they come from and how they think and how how they apply their skills. I think on a project, let's say it was an animated series that sold and you're going to do 65 half hours of it, and you have, showrunners and story editors and outside writers. And you may end up working with 25 outside writers, and you have a clock that you have, and you have notes that you have to get. So at some level, it's kind of a concentric circles, right? You work with a staff that really needs to understand and be on the same page creatively of what's going on. But you spend a lot of time, thrashing around and, throwing a sock around a room and talking about stuff and working it out and then getting it on paper and getting an agreement with everybody that, whether it's the owner of the intellectual property, the licensed properties, or the network that's broadcasting it, the studio that's doing it, whatever creative talent is involved, you get a consensus. And then on a creative basis, you also want to be open to surprise. Someone that brings you something that you just, was not in that structured pocket. It still works. You make it work, but it's just, so fun and so clever. You can fit it in a situation like that, as a, either as a, where you're running an agency or you're running a show. At the end of the day, on those things, if there was a, weekend of 2 14-hour days to rewrite the script to get it in on time because it stunk, because it didn't work, that fell on me or the, story editors. And, so you're tolerant of, like you talk about an asshole, you only put up with so much, but also someone who, refuses to understand how their creativity works within that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think, on a general creative basis, when you're, if I'm sitting in an executive seat and people are coming in and pitching, or you're looking at stuff, I mean, my brain's doing the business in the background, but I just, I want to hear what their fire is and why it's cool and what's exciting, and, come at it like an audience, come at it like some, and see if it sparked me. And there's stuff that's great and stuff that works all the time that just doesn't necessarily resonate with me. I think I developed kind of a taste of what could work and what would work in the marketplace. But there were things that surprised me all the time that I didn't see. But the other thing was I wanted to be surprised by the box that I built, right? I mean, I wanted it, or that I was forced into, by the situation. So, Yeah, I think dealing with creative people is, you got to give them space to, to come in, but you also then have to, sometimes talk them off the ledge and, get them restarted on what they're doing. So,
So
um,
true.
I love really art. I love artists. That's, kind of where I come from.
Hmm.
But sometimes there's, an artist has to do their art not within the where you're forced to do craft. So,
It's so right. I mean, I've dealt with so many different types of artists and creatives in my lifetime, and there's a certain type of artist that loves to think the world revolves around them and their idea and nothing else matters. And dealing with those types of artists, it's fun and interesting and tests your patience and helps you manage bigger teams in the future of not what to do as a creative person. And also at the same time, there are some things you can learn from difficult artists as well. There are some things that you can take away from a difficult relationship or a difficult, talent. There are things that you can also learn that will help you in the future finding talent that won't be that type of person. And at the same time, how to make teams vibe and make teams connect and align so that sometimes that difficult person can connect with someone else who knows how to handle that person and calm them down and have them create something that is outstanding because of the balance of personalities. And when you are in those situations where you're trying to come up with that idea, that creative idea and spark, what do you like to do to get into your creative flow? And also, what have you found working with creatives to help them get out of a creative rut and get into their creative flow state to come up with that idea?
um, yeah. So for me personally, I'm not sure how I shift into that creative mindset. I mean, driving in the car is good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, early morning before I wake up is good. Before I fall asleep, I drift into, that kind of letting go of the structure of my mind personally, just to, get it all over the place. I try and, get that stuff down on paper after I've done it, get something down and come back to it. Um, from a, creative discipline viewpoint, just on a, work, when you're working 6, 10 hour days writing or working on something, would always get up the morning before, the next morning, and look at what I'd done we done the day before, and
Mm-hmm.
would always set, if we were working on a script and it had, break it down into manageable pieces
Nice.
and work through that and then let it go and then, creatively think about it and then, look at it in the morning with a critical eye. So, I mean, there was like space within the, when am I thinking about it creatively?
Mm-hmm.
But what we talked about earlier, I think bouncing stuff off other, people, other people that are creative and can, hear what you're saying and go with it. And, sometimes if it's completely off topic of what you're working on, just is helpful, for a creative space. But it's a kind of a different mind space for me.
Yeah.
That's, brainstorming. That's more, more jazz than playing the music on the page. It's and I know when I'm doing it, and I can go in and out of it quicker than I used to. Um, but it's hard to explain that.
It is.
Where, just, that loosened association of stuff, and how it comes to you. Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
I
I mean,
don't I don't know how to get people out of their own way entirely, right? Because a lot of, creativity for me is just all about making mistakes all over the place.
yeah. I mean, it's also just being okay with those mistakes, being okay
Yeah.
with terrible lines and unfunny scenes. And it's really being okay with being vulnerable and being okay with taking risks, because if you're always playing it safe, you're never going to have that hit that no one's ever seen or heard before. And to take those risks, you have to have a safe environment, right? You have to have the creatives and the people in that room that allow you to come up with that stupid idea. And that, who knows, maybe that stupid idea ends up being the show's title and the whole story A. So I think that it's really great that what you said about just bouncing ideas off of people and also breaking down the project, the script in this case, into small chunks, not thinking about it as like the whole 30 pages or 15 pages and trying to come up with that whole scene. It's like, let's come up with act one, let's come up with story A, with story B, let's just break it down into small chunks. And I always found that interesting about writing rooms. And I always love the idea of writing rooms because I think that's where a lot of awesome, just creative ideas and teams, different types of ways that people come up with ideas. I mean, some of these shows, especially with animation, are just pumping out just ideas like South Park. I mean, I cannot believe that South Park has been around this long and is still relevant and funny. Just to see the new pandemic episode and watching the new episodes. I mean, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, like props to them and their writing team and the creatives over there to consistently come up with ideas and making it funny and innovative and provocative and sometimes controversial. And I think that's what makes them so special. Um, and so for you, Reed, when it comes to writing, and writing for brands now and getting into digital content, what do you feel, what is your pitch to brands when it comes to, why content is important, and what do you do special? What's your unique skill or, addition to your value offer to these brands to kind of get them on board?
So I think the first message is you need to meet your audience where they are, and you need to meet them there with content that includes video because that's where they are and what they're doing and what they're watching. I think I come in kind of as a CMO in a box with operational experience. So I can get what they need from a business perspective. I'm a quick study on businesses, and then in creating content and brand, the old branding, ways to get at a brand. But these days, it's once you establish what the brand is, what stories do you tell around that brand, and how do you tell it in social media, and how do you ring a clear bell? I said it earlier for me, which is how do you get that out there, the theme. So I think what I bring from that perspective is the ability to tell those stories,
Hmm.
to tell them effectively, to tell them within a framework that reinforces a brand and what they're desiring. And then I have a ton of years on performance marketing, which is I'm a metrics driven, data driven guy. I kind of say, I love words and I'm good with math, and in that combination, you can offer something that both the business needs on a creative level and on a business operational level.
Wow. You just really hit a lot of points that I feel is what makes you special as a content creator, and what a lot of other marketers and content creators and artists should learn in order to build their businesses and be special in this market is combining marketing with content creation, combining creativity with the pragmatic and the logical and the business side of things. And to know that creativity now, content is direct response, because you see how many views you get, how many likes you get, what are the comments, what's your ROI when you have a CTA. You're at a point now as a content creator where you have to work with businesses and brands to help you pay for your career. So you have to know what they want and what the results they want to get, and how you're going to create the content to get those results. And sometimes a lot of creators, I know because I used to be like this, we just want to create something beautiful and lovely and something that people will be delighted to watch. Though in this day and age, because of YouTubers and Instagrammers and TikTokers now, they know these content creators know what the audience wants, but at the same time are able to put um, uh, ins- uh, insert their voice and their unique perspective, so that whatever they're creating, it's not just another trend. It's actually something that is tied towards their identity and what makes them special. And so, and same thing goes with marketers. And I think that marketers out there and executives and founders who want to market have to learn content creation. And if not, of course, hire someone to do that for them. But at the same time, it is helpful as a, let's say, a owner of a startup or an online brand or business, to know how to create just a selfie video sales letter and use that for a landing page and be able to get the signups and the opt-ins in order for you to grow that email list and then have your pre-launch content and launch your product. And I think that marketers and creative people are now getting together, and a lot of the mixing is happening where a lot of companies are hiring in-house videographers and in-house photographers, and
Yep.
so that you're pumping out content at a consistent level and you don't have to deal with an outside agency. So it's such an interesting time now, because I can just see how the YouTube creator just community has really sparked this whole idea of, okay, run and gun content creation that actually brings in the dollars and actually makes sales because of influencer marketing. So, Reed, I know you're a busy person and I wouldn't want to take up any more of your time. So before we go, I'd love to hear what your advice is to businesses out there who need to grow through marketing, and what they should do with their content and their marketing in order for them to scale, or if anything, just sell their products and services.
Yeah, I think, finding a good marketing partner or a good marketing team internally, which does kind of what you're talking about on both levels. One, right? You need good content, you need good stories, but you also need, data-driven decision making and strategic media buying and understanding of, earned and paid media, um, either in the same agency or the same people that you have in house. And the conflict we've been kind of talking about often makes it, hard to find that. You can have, great content, but it isn't related to, does it really drive growth and sales and presence in the marketplace?
Hmm.
Does it grow your audience? Does it grow your customer base? Um, and then you can have, data driven decision making that doesn't effectively work in the marketplace. You're looking at the numbers and you're measuring your marketing. You'll get guys that'll come in and, say, I'll do your media buying, I'll do your SEM, I'll do all these things for you. Here's all the, here's how, I'll get you number one on Google. I mean, that doesn't fulfill your needs on understanding what your business is and what you need to communicate to the audience. So you need both those pillars, and then you need to find someone you can work with, that that you can work both as a, in some ways I try and work much more as a partner these days in the businesses I get involved with. I work with a variety of businesses, but I will engage as deeply as I can. I can come in on the strategy level. I can work on the execution level. Um, it's in any of those ways. But to find someone that you can work with as a business.
Love it. That's excellent advice. And of course, if you want to work with someone with content, you have Reed here. And so, with that being said, Reed, how can we find you online and how can we support you?
So easy to find on LinkedIn. It's Reed Shelly, ReedShelly. And one business to find me through is brandxsocial.com.
Amazing. Reed, thank you so much for hopping on today. Really enjoyed our conversation. And Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so
You too,
much.
sir. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
man.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchell Doomlau. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.